Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Wednesday, the 2nd of February, 2022. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. And the war drums are beating out there. But I'm going to tell you guys what. When it comes to conventional warfare, the United States and her allies and the West together are extremely powerful in the mechanics of war. Extreme. Russia and China put together. I don't know. I mean, but what do we want? A burnout cinder of a world? Because they got enough weapons to, just obliterate the entire place. And, there's neocons out there who are just frothing at the mouth, waiting to go, go, go. They want it. They're warmongers of the most extreme kind. And Russia and China, China, there's a trade war. It's been ongoing for quite a while. Started during the Trump administration. And there was a ceasefire that expired. Trade war's on. Now Russia's talking about a economic war. Well, what's the best option for Russia and China? Is it to go into a hot war with the United States? The United States is like bristling, absolutely, when it comes to the weapons of war. The United States and her allies, just bristling. Or would it be to take a look at the vulnerabilities of the Western world, the United States and her allies? There's a huge vulnerability there. And it's not in the weapons of war. They're not vulnerable. They're not vulnerable in being able to actually fight a hot war. They're not vulnerable that way. They're bristling, like I said, but they are vulnerable. And believe me, the Chinese and the Russians are totally aware, and they have been for a long time, of the vulnerability of the Western world. And that vulnerability is in their financial system. The people who govern our financial system have created a problem within our financial system that Russia and China are fully well aware of as a vulnerability to us. Our financial system is our biggest Achilles heel, our biggest vulnerability. And believe me, they will take advantage of it. And they have been eyeing that possibility of taking advantage of it for a very long time. This is why China and Russia together are working as a pact together to accumulate gold. And they've been doing it for a very long time. Our silly politicians here in the West, in times gone by, not right now, but in times gone by, when they had a lot of gold, we had a lot of gold over here in the West. And they leased it out. Who do you think bought it? Mostly China, and they shipped it east. And you know what, this whole leasing thing of gold is nothing more than a fleecing of all of us. And weakening and making us vulnerable, more vulnerable. And basically how it works is, it's called rehypothecation of our gold and our silver. What they have is putting it in basic simple terms so that people can understand what it actually is the West has big enormous amounts, or had, I should say had, big enormous amounts of gold in vaults. What they do is they take and they say, well, okay, we're in charge of this gold. We're the politicians. That bunch of gold over there, that 1,400 tons of gold. Can you imagine how much gold that is? 1,400 tons. We're going to rehypothecate that by leasing it. We're going to lease that gold. So they drop a paper. It's all legal, like it's all, how they do. Everything's like lawyers and everything else, right? They drop a paper And the paper basically says we're going to lease this gold. We're going to sell it into the market right now. And at a certain time when the lease expires, we buy it back from the market at a cheaper price. Well, everything looks good. It's all on paper. Okay, we sell our gold, and then we buy it back. And this way we don't have vaulting fees or anything else. We just leave it on the world's open market and then buy it back at a specific time in the future when this lease expires. So this is called rehypothecation of the gold. And then they take that 1,400 tons of gold that they just decided to lease, and they actually sell it into the market and drives the gold price way down. Now, they've done this in the past. But the gold's now out of the vaults of the West, our vaults. Where do you think it goes? Well, it goes and it heads east into another vault where they resmelt it. The Chinese or Russians resmelt it into their what they want to resmelt it in, which is also oftentimes kilo-sized bars, and they restack it in their vault. You ever heard the old saying, ownership is 9 points of the law? They own it now. Right? Now the West, all they got is a piece of paper saying, we're going to buy this gold back when the lease expires. So what we've got is we've got a whole bunch of empty vaults all through the Western world. In China, we got vaults of gold, and in Russia, we got vaults of gold that are brimming to the full, to the roof, with shiny gold. This is an economic weapon, and has been for a long time. So, I mean, Jim Rickards talked about games at the CIA. He worked with the CIA on war games that were specifically targeting this issue of the West doesn't have much gold, and the East is packed full of gold. What are we going to do? How are we going to fight? If they want to use gold as a weapon against us, against our financial system, what are we going to do? Well, I'll tell you, it's my opinion only, but I think they came up with a solution. And, you know, and I think this was quite a while ago, probably back around 2009, they came up with a solution. They would create something that works on the internet that looks like gold, smells like gold, tastes like gold. If it quacks like a duck, then it's supposed to be a duck, but it's all just going to be digital. So they sat down, and I guess they must have got a bunch of computer scientists to build this thing. And, you know, and first, where they start? Well, they start with an icon for it. Well, they got to make it look like gold, so they need a gold-colored icon. And then they need a name. You know, so they put a big B on the gold-colored icon. And then they got this thing that's going to be the West's gold, to conquer the East's gold that they've got. You know, a competitor against the real gold, a digital gold, you know. And so when it comes down to this economic war that's coming right now, the West doesn't have much gold. It's got a bunch of empty vaults. You go into their vaults and all you hear is an echo, like an echo chamber. That's our vaults over here in the West. Where the East, the vaults are brimming with gold, and it's coming down to the nitty gritty now, because Russia's talking about and China's already in a trade war, which could spill over into an economic war, and Russia's talking about an economic war. I don't think hot wars are coming. I think they're going to exploit our vulnerability. And what are we going to have? What are we going to have when they start exploiting our vulnerability? Well, we're going to have fake gold. Lots and lots of fool's gold. That's what we're going to have over here in the West. You know? And just because it's fool's gold doesn't mean it's going to be worthless. Personally, I don't think it's as good as the real gold, but being as it's over here in the West, and being as a million times zero is still zero, and that's what the dollar could be worth in the end, a big fat zero. You know, maybe the fool's gold will be the only money over here in the West with any value, but it might not have any value hardly compared to what they have over there, which is real gold. So we might be descending toward poverty in the Western side, because there's an old saying, he who has the gold makes the rules. And we've been fool enough to allow these politicians It's like putting the fox in charge of the hen house and put these politicians in charge of our gold. Because they had a good time, let me tell you what. When they signed all those lease papers and sold all of our gold over there, then they had that money come in from selling it. And even though they were selling it for like 1,200 an ounce or whatever they could get, because it's cheaper back when they hypothecated and China was hoarding it. It's cheaper back then. And than it is now even. And the price is suppressed right now. This shows you how much, this is a marker to show you guys how much the Western's financial system has already collapsed. China and Russia are sitting over there right now, and they're saying, well, we don't have to attack this bristling, powerful army. We can just come around from their flanks and attack them where they're weak in their financial system. And whose fault is that? Federal Reserve. From its very inception. It's not only weakened it's destroying our middle class, which is weakening us, but it's also weakened us all the way across the board, made us vulnerable. It's a horrible instant. The way the money is set up in the West, all these fiat currencies, is a situation that's put us behind the 8 ball big time. Anyway, let's get in there and let's take a look at what's going on. Let's open up the charts right here. Take a look. What do we got today? See, the West still controls the gold price in their funny rigged system. But this might be the biggest of all, is because China and Russia have been separating themselves from the Western financial system for a very long time. They've been opening up their own banking system that's equivalent of like the World Bank. It's like they're doing equivalents. They're doing an equivalent of the SWIFT system over there. They've got like their own payment system and stuff set up that they're setting up and everything. They are separating themselves from the sinking ship, which is, they're trying to create a lifeboat for themselves from the sinking ship. The Titanic is sinking. That's our financial system, and that's what runs everything in our Western world over here. And it's a Ponzi scheme. Basically, what I'm trying to say to you guys is they're just waiting. They're just sitting there waiting and watching for us to sink. And they're going to try to give, at some point, they're going to try to give us a little bit of push to help sink our boat. And I think gold is what they're going to use as an economic weapon. And I think that our play in this enormous chess game is to use our fool's gold to try to... I should laugh. I mean, like that's gonna... If that was an economic bomb, that would be a big dud. Anyway, we're going to end up poorer than church mice over here. We won't even have the money to bring our troops back. And they know it. When our financial system is such a whacked off, wacky baloney of a big ball of air. That's all it is. And the gas is hissing out of the damn thing. That's all we got. Fool's gold. That's all we got. And yeah, we might be so poor over here in these countries that fool's gold might become real gold for us. They've given all our gold away. Idiots. Politicians. Anyway, we're looking at 22.77. It's up 17 cents on silver today. Gold today. We got to take a look at gold here. See what it's doing. Basically, I guess what I'm trying to tell you guys is the original guys who made Bitcoin, they designed it as gold, to be digital gold. And that's pretty much obvious what they're trying to do. They made it so it'd be mined. So you mine it. You mine real gold. So you're going to mine this fake gold. And they call it mining. They set it up in a way that it imitates real gold all the way right down to making it the icon for it looking like a big gold coin. Should be obvious to everybody going all the way back to 2009. It's fool's gold. It's the Western. It's what we're going to have for our gold, while the East they're going to be using real gold. So this will descend us into a state where we're working for them rather than us working. I mean, okay, it's just going to flop the table around. That's what it'll do in the end. They're just waiting with big bated breath. They're rubbing their hands together and saying, "Oh, we can't wait till the West slides down into oblivion, and then we can become the masters, and they'll be working for us on their knees, begging us for food. We don't have to fight them with real weapons. We'll just use their own politicians against them because they're our politicians. With friends like that, you don't need enemies. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, we're up on gold too, 1810. Let's take a look now. See, they could come along. The Chinese and the Russians could come along right now in the position that they're in, and they're using the Shanghai Gold Exchange. They could just set the price. They could just bypass the COMEX almost any time they want now. The COMEX is just a bunch of hot air. They're just bidding on a bunch of paper at the COMEX. Oh, they got big piles of paper all over every desk, and it with scribbles on it saying this is 40,000 ounces of silver. This is uh, gold right here. All this is a piece of paper, and they're just dealing in all that paper. Over there in the Shanghai Gold Exchange right now, they're sliding the real gold across the table. The real thing, not a bunch of paper. And they're just letting the West drift along, letting the COMEX determine the price so that they can get a little bit more before this whole thing. I mean, the East, they just want to buy a little bit more at these cheaper prices, Just clean out the West even more. Get them so their vaults are completely empty, so that all that's in their vaults is cobwebs. And the Russia and China's just bristling with gold. This is an economic thing, that could bring us down to the point where we're groveling for food, and they're sitting back with piles of gold, eating fresh turkeys, and meat all over the table, and having a great time, laughing and cheering and toasting one another. While we're over here in this abject state of poverty, all of our citizens who were once flourishing over here in the West. I mean, before these politicians got at us, we were sitting over here and only one person in the family had to work. And you could save money every month. Now you got husband and wife working, and even putting the kids to work. And the weekends, they have to go mow lawns just to try to get enough food, and they're going behind. Reapothecate our gold. Yeah, that's a great idea. Anyway, let's take a look now at cryptos. And what we're seeing today is we're seeing a price decline, and it's continuing to decline. But remember, in the end, this might be the only thing of value we have in the Western world because we don't have enough gold. So, I mean, yeah, okay, we got a little bit of gold. But uh, a lot of it's in private ownership, and it's the smart people who are hanging on to the gold. And everybody else, I mean, okay, a Bitcoin price of 37,451. Look at how much gold right now Bitcoin can buy. Real gold. The numbers could reverse, The Western world had all these foolish bubbles that pop up, and the crypto is nothing else but another one of these foolish bubbles. And at a certain point in time, when Bitcoin was like $68,000, and when you compare it to the gold price, one Bitcoin would buy a hell of a lot of gold. We might see a reversal in that ultimately in the end, where Bitcoin still has a great value in dollars. It might be extreme, it might be $1 million. Bitcoin worth $1 million, But what'll be gold cost at that point in time? There's something to think about. Okay, let's take a look now at the Dow Jones, and we see it's up 55 points. This silly thing too, I mean, it's so overvalued, it's unbelievable. Uh, okay, let's take a look now at crude oil, which is it's down today. It's 87.43. So it's getting up near $90. I remember not long ago a day when the crude oil was minus $40. Boy, that was an incredible day. That was a day when if you had an empty ship, you could back it up there, and for every barrel of crude oil they dumped on board your ship, they'd give you $40, and here, take it away, boys. Yeah, we just filled up your tanker for free. And we're going to give you another $200,000 because $40 a barrel. How many barrels did he have in his tanker? Man, that was some day, wasn't it? Didn't last very long. But it just shows you how screwed up our Western system is. That they could give you money to take it. I mean, this is just showing you how screwed up our Western system is on this Ponzi scheme that we're on. And another illustration how screwed it up it is the fact that a Bitcoin could be worth $68,000. Okay. Let's move on and take a look at the MOVE index today at 85.22. Going along a little bit sideways. The U.S. Treasury right now, I couldn't get my normal site that gets me my treasuries, but I got 10-year here. It's 1.74 and it's down. It's come down 4.5 basis points. So it was touching 180, 1.8. Now it's at 1.74, so it's cooled off a little bit. Now listen, guys, these Treasury notes are getting ready to price in the second cut from the Fed. First cut was $30 billion, been done. The second cut's coming, or is it already here? It's right close now. The second cut. They're going to start pricing in the second cut pretty soon. So we're probably going to see the U.S. 10-year here go up into the 1.8s pretty darn soon here, and stay, and maybe 1.9s pretty soon. We're going to see it start to drift up these yields again. That's going to have a positive effect upon the market. Just joking. That was sarcasm. I mean, I don't use sarcasm a lot, but it's going to be the opposite of that. It's going to have a downward pressure on the market. That's what it's going to do when the treasuries start to climb. Anyway, let's move on and take a look at the last thing here on our list, which is the U.S. dollar index, and it's dropped back down to 95.98, the U.S. dollar. But, you know, this is possibly, the DXY, U.S. dollar index, is possibly the most skewed thing out there, because the dollar is being compared against a basket of other fiat currencies that are they're all garbage. And it makes the dollar look good, because it's like, what are you comparing it against? Anyway, thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. And we'll catch you guys in the very next episode. And, you know, I'm not down on Bitcoin. Just want to let you guys know, I'm not down on Bitcoin. It's just that over here in the West, you know, Bitcoin, and Russia and China never did like Bitcoin. This tells you why. Over here in the West, Bitcoin might be worth a lot, but it's going to be worth a lot compared against what? Just like the U.S. dollar index. Compared against the dollar, Bitcoin could be worth millions in the end. But by that time, what's the dollar worth? You know, if you go to the store and you want to buy something, say you want to buy a gallon of gas over here in the West. This is why we're going to be in poverty. Why I say, you might want to buy a gallon of gas, and you see the price is $10,500 for 1 gallon of gas. You know? And yeah, by that time, Bitcoin might be $1 million. But I mean, the price of everything else will be so high that Bitcoin won't have any more purchasing power than it has now. You know, by that time. But if you had kept your dollars, so say, look at it this way. Say you kept your dollars during that whole period in time, Well, now suddenly you're paying $10,000 for a gallon of gas. So your money in the bank ain't going to be worth diddly squat. Say you got $10,000 in the bank right now at this minute. And say we move to that world in the future where gas is $10,000 a gallon, right? Well, if you'd bought $10,000 worth of Bitcoin right now, and Bitcoin goes to $1 million, I mean, you would still be able to buy that gallon of gas. But if you just kept your dollars in the bank as dollars, well, the 10,000 you'd be able to buy 1 gallon of gas. What would that do? Get you down to the branch and back? Drive you to the bank and back? That's about all it would do. So don't save. And this is why Ray Dalio said, hey, cash is trash. Don't save in U.S. dollars anymore. Inflation has come. Inflation now is going to eat your U.S. dollar savings away. Save in things that are going to try to preserve your purchasing power. Keep your money in the bank, but keep enough in there to pay all your bills and stuff. Use your bank. But inflation's is what's going to eat your money away in the bank. Your money in the bank's probably going to be safe. I hear a lot of talk. A lot of people are out there talking about, the banks are going to do a bail-in and all this kind of stuff. We might have a credit freeze and the banking system will go down. Yeah, during a credit freeze, yeah, that might happen. But it'd be for a limited period of time while they fix it, because they definitely would fix it, and then the banks would open back up again. Your money is pretty much safe in the bank. I'm not saying your money's not safe in the bank. I'm just saying that they're gonna eat it all away on you through inflation, possibly negative interest rates coming. Our Western financial system is so screwed up. Honest to gosh, it's just like they said. They said, if you allow a central bank by either deflation or inflation, you'll end up in poverty. Basically the essence of it. And boy, was it ever true. And they're still allowing the central bank to have control. Why? Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.